Hello guys, thank you so much for watching Signs and Wonders. I hope you guys are all doing well right now with all the stuff that's happening around the world. I want to say thank you for everything that you guys have done. Thank you so much to all my Patreons, to everyone that's supported the channel. You guys are amazing. If you're new here, please subscribe and stay safe guys. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. God bless. We are living in perilous times that no one has ever experienced before. For example, the last pandemic declared was in 1918, so really this is uncharted territory for all of us. End times Bible prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. To some it's frightening, but I find it incredible that we are actually living in the generation that the prophets of old spoke about thousands of years ago. In Revelation 6:6 we read, "And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of 4 living creatures, saying, A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." Now, a denarius back then was about a day's wages, and a quart of wheat I believe was about a loaf of bread. This is a clear prophecy about hyperinflation in the end times. Hyperinflation is caused by an economic crash, like the Great Depression. In 1921, after World War I, Germany experienced the worst hyperinflation ever seen. A loaf of bread in Berlin that cost around 160 marks at the end of 1922 cost 200 million marks by late 1923.
The global economy is facing its biggest crisis in 90 years. The International Monetary Fund says the pandemic and lockdown measures will cause the worst recession since the Great Depression. So what does that look like, and what hopes are there for a recovery? We talk about the worst recession since the Great Depression. What does that look like in 2020?
Well, it looks like $9 trillion lost in total, which is the GDP of Japan and Germany combined. So it's quite a massive shock. Actually, at the trough of the crisis, which is in the second quarter of 2020, we may be in the tune of -20 to -30% in most of the world. So when you have half of the world in lockdown and suddenly more than 3/4 of the GDP of the world in lockdown, this is what a major depression looks like. It's called the Great Lockdown Recession. It's very different from 2008, 2009 because it didn't originate in the financial sector. It originated in the real economy. It's about jobs. It's about bankruptcies.
The shock of the global economy from COVID-19 has been both faster and more severe than the 2008 global financial crisis and even the Great Depression. According to Noel Rubini, who is an NYU professor and was the top White House economist in the Clinton administration Treasury Department, says in both previous episodes it took 3 years for the economy to crash as far as it nearly has in 3 weeks. He writes, "The current situation is far more dire than the Great Depression. Not even during the Great Depression and World War II did the bulk of economic activity literally shut down as it has in China, the United States, and Europe today. France saw its sharpest economic contraction since World War II in the first quarter as the lockdown from mid-March left shops shuttered and consumers hunkered down at home."
These are the figures for the first 3 months of this year, Annette, and it's worth pointing out that only the 2.5 weeks of the lockdown measures are counted during this period, but it was still the worst slump on record, a contraction of 5.8% for the French economy. These records began in 1949, which means it's much worse than the slump seen during the financial crisis or during the social unrest of May 1968. Now, the Statistics Agency actually changed its methods to ensure that it could count as much as possible from those crucial 2.5 weeks. And what we found out is that things like consumer spending for the month of March was down by almost 18%, a huge drop, a drop in business investment. Output from manufacturing and construction was down sharply as well. And looking ahead, the next 3 months could be even more brutal in a drop to the economy because we're going to be looking at least half of the 3-month period from April to June covered by a lockdown. And without a major recovery, there won't be greater figures coming out of the French economy later in the year either. The crucial thing to watch will be consumer spending. Once shops do reopen for those that have been closed and people do have less restrictions on them to go out and about? Are they going to spend money? Because that will be what's crucial to the recovery of the French
Lebanese
economy.
government on Thursday approved a long-awaited plan to rescue the economy from its worst crisis in decades, following a fresh wave of angry street protests this week.
Angry and desperate, Lebanese protesters are back on the streets. Violence has rocked parts of the country since the start of the week, with demonstrators defying coronavirus lockdown orders and clashing with security forces.
وكل شيء غلي، أكل غلط، أسعار كلها غلط. ونحن صراحة يعني ما معنا شيء، قعدوا أكل ما فينا نجيب، خبز ما فينا نجيب، ولا فينا نجيب شيء.
The situation has been particularly violent in the northern city of Tripoli. Banks have been set ablaze and ATMs smashed as people vented their anger at having their deposits frozen. The country is struggling with currency shortages following years of over-reliance on foreign funds and controversial monetary policy. Since last October, the Lebanese pound has lost more than half its value.
بده يؤدي طبيعي لهالحالة اللي هيدي الناس انهارت قدرتها الشرائية وما في خطة للدولة لحتى تعمل أي شيء. المصارف مسكرة ما عم تعطي مصاري للناس وأنا برأيي
And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Matthew 24:12. Since South Africa introduced strict lockdown measures last month, protests, looting and riots have become commonplace, particularly in poorer neighborhoods. While some say the looting of local stores is linked to food shortages, linked to the coronavirus, others call it theft.
Since the coronavirus restrictions were brought in last month, violent demonstrations have become more common in some of Cape Town's poorer neighbourhoods. The lockdown has tipped these protesters in Mitchell's Plain over the edge. As unrest over the lockdown has escalated, shops like Ayesha's have become an easy target for looters.
They are only robbers, innocent color. They just want to gain something and they will go sell that stuff for drugs. They're not hungry because how many soup kitchens is here in this area? How many people they dish out food here?
Mitchell's Plain is home to several powerful gangs. Many residents say criminals are benefiting from the coronavirus crisis. At another looted shop just down the street, CCTV footage shows a group of men breaking in, the owners telling France 24 that at least one of them was armed. Authorities are advising shops to close and empty out their stock. This Somali vendor, who has lived in Mitchell's Plain for 7 years, is thinking about leaving until things get safer.
Another Bible prophecy we are seeing unfolding these days is Luke 21, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. A large asteroid named 1998 OR2 will fly past Earth on Wednesday. Astronomers say the asteroid is more than a mile wide and will not collide with our planet, but will get very close.
When a small asteroid broke up over Siberia in 2013, the ensuing shockwave injured over 1,000 people and caused extensive damage. It was a reminder to space agencies across the world of the dangers asteroids can pose. The asteroid now heading our way has been classified as a potentially hazardous object, but scientists say 1998 OR2 is not a threat. It's travelling at 30,000 kilometres an hour and is at least 2 kilometres wide, but will pass by at a distance of 6 million kilometres.
We don't have to deal with it with fear, we have to deal with it with the science. So people should not be afraid of asteroids. People should be encouraged to assess the risk of these asteroids and to follow these asteroid research program, and most importantly, to maintain these asteroid research program in place.
Programs like NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART program, aim to tackle potential threats in the future. It's one of many programs around the world that not only track large asteroids, but have potential solutions to redirect them.
The love of many is beginning to wax cold all around the world, and we are seeing more and more rioting and civil unrest.
Crowds across several Lebanese cities vented their fury at soaring inflation and an unprecedented devaluation of their currency. Banks were a prime target after some locked savers out of their US dollar accounts.
وصلت العالم لمرحلة ما عاد فيها تتحمل، الجوع ذبح العالم. طبعا الفقر بده يولد طالما عندنا هيك زعماء منهم مسؤولين عن الشعب كل واحد قاعد ببيته ومنه عم يحكي ولا كلمه ولا عم يطلع على الساحه ولا عم بيساعد.
Lebanon has seen its currency lose more than half its value since October, and the government defaulted on its sovereign debt for the first time in March. Some 45% of the population is currently living below the poverty line, and the COVID pandemic and lockdown has further worsened the situation, bringing the economy to a standstill after authorities closed non-essential shops. The governor of the central bank has been accused of failing to prevent the Lebanese pound sliding to an all-time low against the US dollar. He blamed the country's recent political crisis, in which mass protests unseated the previous government.
And finally we come to Matthew 24, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. I find it very sad that amid all the turmoil and starvation that's already happening in this world, never mind the pandemic, that the worldwide military spending is actually increasing.
The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute says global military spending grew to nearly $2 trillion. That's a more than 7% increase over 10 years. But that trend may change as the coronavirus pandemic devastates the world's economies. 5 countries account for more than 60% of the world's military expenditure. The US is by far the world's largest spender at $732 billion. That's more than a third of the global military budget. China's in second place at $261 billion, up 5% from 2018. India is third at $71 billion. It's the first time 2 Asian nations are among the top 3.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. Stay safe, guys, and God bless you and your families.